What principle do I refer to? We are not allowed to go beyond what is written. Whose rule is that, anyway? We turn again to the Holy Scriptures for a response. Apostle Paul wrote the following, 1 Corinthians chapter 4, verse 6. Now, brothers and sisters, I have applied these things to myself and Apollos for your benefit, so that you may learn from us the meaning of the saying, do not go beyond what is written. Then you will not be puffed up in being a follower of one of us over against the other. Beloved audience, whose rule is it? Is it our rule? No. We believe in this rule. Why? Because
that's in the Bible.
Oh, what was the rule? Don't go beyond what is what?
Written.
Don't go beyond what is written. You can't add to it. When we pose questions, we just got to turn to the Holy Scriptures and get the answer from God. He inspired more or less 42 different chosen writers over a time span of so many years to compile this truth, so that when we pose questions, we don't have to try to dream up our own opinionated answers. It's there. You're inside the Church of Christ. This is how we learn. This is the way that we are taught. It may not be the most entertaining format, but we are preserved from the opinions of any individual. And we are therefore tied to the truths of God recorded here in the Holy Scriptures. We always adhere to the instruction that we have just read together. Go beyond what is written. Everything that we believe has to come from the Holy Scriptures. So I pose this question to the audience once again. Anyone know that that was a commandment of God before we just read it there from the Bible and put it up on the screen, that you could not go beyond what was written? How many knew that rule of God before we just read it together? Raise your hand. More or less about half, okay? So there's the answer to Mr. Hezoda's question. Half did not even know that that was a rule. And because half, and then so many others in preachers and such in this world also do not yet know that rule, they just go and preach whatever they think, their own idea of right and wrong, good and bad, and that confuses and perplexes people such as Mr. Hezoda and so many others to wonder, why is Christianity all under the umbrella of Christianity all teaching so many different things? Well, there you go. There's the Bible's answer. Because there are people out there teaching things that have been added to it or subtracted from it and confusing people. So upon close examination, you will see that many churches and religious groups and preachers, like what was mentioned by the individual who posed the question for today's episode in that opening video clip, is noticing the preachers that are just not following that rule. Instead, what's being put forth, sad to say, are teachings inspired, and we heard that as we read Mark chapter 7, teachings inspired by man's own rules, not God. And these falsehoods have been inserted into every Christian professing religion since the very beginning of Christianity. Except for one. Except for one. The true Church of Christ, built by Jesus. And beloved guests, an audience online and on DirecTV, today, here in this studio audience and that online audience as well, you have found that one true Church of Christ established by Jesus that does adhere to the instruction to use the Bible as the sole basis of our faith. Do not add to it, do not subtract from it. You must continue, therefore, to study with us. But for now, that's all we have time for. Okay? That's all we have time for. but may it inspire you to continue learning more and continue studying with us here inside the Church of Christ. We want to thank so much our studio audience for joining with us, taking the studio tour, and posing questions as many of you have done. There is no question that is too basic, no question that cannot be answered by the Bible when it comes to our lives and when it comes to our salvation. And if you'd like to know more about the basic fundamental teachings found inside the Church of Christ, please visit. I'm pausing because I want to ask you to memorize this just in case you haven't yet. Please visit INC Media.